welcome to What the Plus, critical overview of the last century of family entertainment as filtered through the lens of Disney Plus. Forget all that. Throw that whole intro out. I'm Garrett Martin, a writer and editor. I work at Paste Magazine. I might be too excited about theme parks. This week we're doing something slightly different. Instead of having someone on to talk about a Disney Plus show or movie, I'm inviting on a writer who covered the recent opening of the Avengers Campus theme park expansion at Disney California Adventure for Paste, the magazine that I write for and edit at. Due to COVID, people from outside California can't go to either of the Disneyland Resort theme parks yet. I think that might change in about a week on the 15th of June. I'm not sure. So since I couldn't make it out there for the media preview, I sent Katherine Long, who is currently an intern at Paste, working for me in the game section, and happens to live not too far from Disneyland. So it worked out really well that Katherine is from there. If you aren't aware of Avengers Campus, I can't blame you if you're not a huge theme park fan or if you don't have kids. It's a new expansion at Disney California Adventure, which is the second theme park at Disneyland Resort in Anaheim. It's based on the Marvel superheroes, specifically the Marvel Cinematic Universe versions of them. It was supposed to open in 2020, but the pandemic put the kibosh on that. It finally opened earlier this week. And a couple of days before that opening, they had a media event that Katherine was able to attend. Avengers Campus represents something that Marvel fans have been waiting for since 2009, when Disney announced they were going to purchase Marvel. The thought of the worldwide leader in theme park entertainment giving us attractions based on Spider-Man or the Avengers or some of Marvel's other popular characters was instantly exciting to anyone who grew up reading these comics. There was a bit of a stumbling block, though, and its name was Universal. So back in the mid-90s, when Marvel was going bankrupt, they sold the theme park rights to many of their most popular characters to Universal, and the result was the Marvel Superhero Island at Universal's Islands of Adventure, which opened in 1999. If you've been there, you know it has an amazing Spider-Man ride and a couple of other attractions based around Doctor Doom and Storm of the X-Men, and a really intense Incredible Hulk roller coaster. And it has sort of this comic book-looking architecture that is, at this point, very dated. It looks straight out of the 1990s. Their superhero meet and greets, it's 4 specific heroes show up on these motorcycle-style tricycles. It's a very out of step with what Marvel has become in the 20 years since. It's not bad. It's cool in its own way. It's definitely nostalgic for anyone who read comics in the 90s. And that Spider-Man ride is world-class. It's one of the greatest theme park rides you'll ever ride. But that deal Marvel signed with Universal back in the 90s was in perpetuity. So Universal has the rights to most of Marvel's most popular characters east of the Mississippi, is the belief. I'm not sure if that's actually been officially proven by anyone. The people who know the terms of the contracts generally don't broadcast those things. But it does have an opportunity in there for Disney to, now that they own Marvel, to build attractions based on those characters west of the Mississippi or throughout the rest of the world. So now you've seen Marvel-themed attractions popping up at Disney parks in France and Hong Kong, and now with Avengers Campus here in Anaheim. Now, this is not the first Marvel-based attraction in Anaheim. Back in 2017, they rethemed the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror into Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. Similar ride, it's a drop tower, but instead of being this creepy horror thing, it's now this sort of fun pop music filled adventure with the actual actors from the Guardians movies showing up on the screen. That ride opened 4 years ago, but it's actually sort of the current e-ticket linchpin of Avengers Campus. The rest of the development they built in what used to be a Bug's Land, and it abuts where the Guardians of the Galaxy ride is, and it's now supposed to be one big seamless whole. There's apparently a legal issue surrounding the use of the word Marvel, so perhaps that's why it's Avengers Campus. but it is home to all the characters you know and love from the movies. Your Captain Americas, your Iron Mans, your Spider-Mans, your Captain Marvels, the Black Panther, Black Widow. If they've been in one of the MCU movies, they're fair game. It has currently, in addition to the Guardians of the Galaxy ride, it has one new ride called Web Slingers, a Spider-Man adventure. It's a new twist on the shooting gallery style ride that you're familiar with from Toy Story Midway Mania or the Buzz Lightyear rides. Instead of actually having a weapon or an implement that you use to aim, it reads the motions of your arms. So you just swing your arms out like you're Spider-Man shooting your web, and the ride can tell where you're aiming and will give you your points based on what you hit. It also has a new restaurant, the Pym Test Kitchen, named after Hank Pym, the original Ant-Man and the discoverer of the so-called Pym particle, the thing within, Marvel universe that lets people grow and shrink. Look, it's been a part of the Marvel universe since before Marvel was even a thing, man. Go back and read the comics. I mean, Jack Kirby created that stuff in like 1960 or something before Fantastic Four was even a thing. Anyway, so those are like the two big highlights of the new land. There's also a couple of shawarma carts playing off that post-credit joke sequence from the first Avengers movie. And there's a lot of opportunity to see heroes in action, not necessarily meet and greets because of COVID, but you can wave to them. You can see them from a distance. You'll see Spider-Man climbing up and down a building. They actually have this groundbreaking, pretty amazing new animatronic. They call it a stuntronic. It looks like Spider-Man. It's basically a robot that gets hurled from one building to another, doing flips and acrobatic motions mid-routine. And it looks like the way Spider-Man moves in the movies and the video games and the comics. There are these stunt shows involving some of the heroes. The Dora Milaje from the Black Panther movies do these live training sessions in the middle of the land. There's a Doctor Strange show. There's a lot going on, even if there aren't a lot of new rides per se. Honestly, I can't wait to make it out there. It's become something of a controversial new addition in the world of Disney for online fans. I think it's part of the larger problems you see with fan culture on the internet these days, where people overreact to everything, even if they haven't actually experienced them themselves. Personally, though, I can't wait to check it out, to fly out there when that's possible and go visit this land. Since that's not something I can do right now, when they had the media event, I knew who to send. And that was my current intern and a great young writer named Katherine Long, who lives right down the street from the theme park. So that's who went for me, and that's who I'm going to talk to today. Catherine's going to join me. We're going to go ahead and talk about Avengers Campus and how it feels to visit it, what makes it special, how it compares to some of Disney's other recent additions to Disneyland Resort, like Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. If you're a theme park fan, hopefully you'll enjoy it. Even if you aren't, who knows? Maybe you'll become one by listening to us talk about theme parks. That's never going to happen, but maybe. Let me believe in that, will you? It's been a hard year. So keep on listening as Katherine Long and I talk about Avengers Campus, the latest theme park expansion at Disney California Adventure at the Disneyland Resort in Anaheim, California. My guest today is Katherine Long, who writes for Paste Magazine, a place you've maybe heard of before. How you doing, Katherine?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. You're actually one of our interns right now, specifically my intern in the games section, and you live out there in Orange County. So you were able to hit up the press event, the media event, the preview for Avengers Campus at Disney California Adventure. How was it?
It was great. You know, it's been a while since I've been able to go to the park. I mean, since anyone has been able to go. And not only was it super exciting to see the opening of Avengers Campus, but I think there was just a collective excitement to be back at the park when things are somewhat back to normal.
Yeah. Starting to feel like we're back to where we were before we had this weird pause in all of our lives.
Yeah, we're getting there.
So you did a really good job summing it up for Paste in an article that we ran earlier this week. Now that it's been a couple of days since you were there, have your thoughts changed at all?
I was thinking about it and I really enjoyed the park and I enjoyed the new Spider-Man attraction. And I was thinking about the opening of this park compared to Galaxy's Edge. And I think it's interesting, specifically, maybe this has to do with space. I'm not entirely sure, but in terms of there usually are with Galaxy's Edge, there's only two attractions or two rides. And with Avengers Campus, we have one new ride, and there's a lot more space for kind of areas to explore and look at things, whereas other areas of Disneyland and California Adventure are kind of jam-packed with rides.
Right.
So I think it's interesting that they are kind of taking that route with both of these new lands.
Speaking of Galaxy's Edge, like one thing that I like about Galaxy's Edge is that it does sort of immerse you in that Star Wars aesthetic. It feels like you're on this other planet, one similar from the movies. Now, Avengers Campus, it's going for obviously a modern, present day, actual realistic setting. It's supposed to be sort of like a college campus in California. Having been there, did you feel immersed in this Marvel world?
Yeah. I mean, one thing that's cool about both of those lands is that the way it's designed is basically you can't really see anything else outside of the land itself. And it was definitely pretty immersive and made you feel like you were kind of a part of the story. And I think a big part of that is also the lore surrounding the land itself, because it's supposed to be like based in the present and here and now. And so this idea of recruiting new superheroes and you are those recruits, I think that was a really good way to immerse visitors into the land itself.
Cool. So it has okay, to people who aren't aware of what's happening at Disney's California Adventure, they just opened Avengers Campus. It's the new Marvel themed area. It's where a Bugs Land used to be, and you went there. So it has what, 3 entrances, right? Like a main one, sort of between Hollywood Land and Cars Land, and then the 2 back ones that used to be the Bugs Land back entrances, right?
Yeah. So I think I'm pretty sure it's 2 entrances.
Okay.
There's one right next to Guardians, the Guardians ride, and then there's a big main entrance on the complete opposite side.
So what did they take the media group through on Wednesday?
So we went through the back entrance right by the Guardians ride, and yeah, we just kind of weaved in. They had these like little grass little things blocking it off, but I think the entrance up front, since there's like this like huge Avengers Campus sign and like this design on the ground that I'm pretty sure lights up at night, like I think like that will be the entrance to go to when you first visit the park.
So when you entered Avengers Campus through that side entrance at the Guardians of the Galaxy ride, what's the first thing that you see inside the new part of Avengers Campus once you enter from that area?
The first thing you see is the new Avengers headquarters building. And you can see the Quinjet that's perched right on top of there. And there's a balcony within the headquarters. It was shown in the broadcast, the live stream broadcast. There are usually like a lot of characters that are pacing back and forth up there. So when I was there walking around, I saw Black Widow, who was just kind of like making her rounds and like eyeing people, like making sure nothing suspicious was happening. So that was fun. But
so just like pacing back and forth, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was she like waving to people or like trying to interact with the guests in any way?
Yeah, I like waved to her and said hello. Like me and this other gal I was with, we like took a selfie with her from afar. So that was fun. And we didn't get to see any performances, but I know that they'll be doing like these little like fights on the balcony itself as like extra
Yeah.
performances within the park, which is super cool.
Did they give you any idea if those are like going to have a set schedule time or are those just going to happen randomly throughout the day?
I'm not entirely sure. I know they have schedules for like some of the other performances that are taking place like around other areas of the park, but for those, I don't know.
I know a lot of people are, wondering if those are actually going to wind up happening when now that it's officially open, because when they had the media event for Galaxy's Edge, they had this big elaborate stunt show that has never been done since. They basically did it for the media and they don't do it live in the park for the guests. But they seem way more focused on these live character interactions with Avengers Campus than they do with Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah, one of the interesting things that stood out to me, and I feel like this is more immersive, and Disney has been doing this in other areas of California Adventure and Disneyland and other parks, but just having characters in like high up places and like having them interact with visitors from far away. It's obviously a COVID safe thing to do, but I find it to be more realistic rather than standing in line and meeting a character. I think that's a cool element, even though it is for COVID reasons.
It's definitely more naturalistic, I mean, so that's kind of one of the costs of Disney becoming as popular as it's become the last couple decades. Because when I was a child, they didn't really have meet and greet locations like they have today. Like characters would be out in the park, and you would just somehow see them walking around, and then you could walk up and get your photo with them. But then they realized they can't really do that so much anymore, considering how much more crowded the parks have become over the last few decades. And obviously with COVID, they can't really do meet and greets at all right now. So that's why they have them lurking from above and everything. Speaking of which, did you get to see the Spider-Man robot, the little Stuntronic thing, go hurtling through the sky like it does?
Yeah, I saw it from pretty far away. I was like running over there because I had just gone on Web Slingers. So I was like, oh my gosh. And because I had heard about it. And so I caught a glimpse of it like right when it happened. And then it's cool how they transition from that into like another guy like coming down. Hi to everyone.
No, it looks really cool, like the Suntronic. Can't wait to see it in person. And that's on top of the Avengers building, or is that on top of the Web Slingers attraction building?
It's like right behind the Web Slingers attraction building, so it's right near the other entrance to the park, like kind of the front
Okay.
one.
The main one, yeah. So,
Yeah.
so that Avengers building right now, you see the Quinjet, you see the heroes on the balcony. Is there anything inside that building at the moment? Like, can you go inside? Is there an attraction or anything, a store or anything inside the actual Avengers headquarters?
Yeah, so we actually asked, you can't go inside that building. It's specifically for the superheroes themselves. Yeah,
It's their own private hangout.
exactly.
I think long term the plan is to have another ride there, but who knows if that'll happen, given, all the money they lost because of COVID.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's pretty convenient that they already had the Mission Breakout ride that came out a few years ago. So,
speaking of Mission Breakout, that's been there for a few years now. Does it feel like a part of Avengers Campus, or can you tell that they were sort of awkwardly put together?
I mean, it definitely felt weird because there was a wall separating Guardians from the land itself. But I mean, it doesn't feel too awkward, given kind of the back area that it's in the park. And I think like most people will be paying attention to the front entrance of Avengers Campus, and that's like the big one. So I don't think it's too bad, but
So one thing I've noticed since I started paying attention to what people write about theme parks on the internet, is that a lot of people are entirely comfortable casting judgment on a ride that they haven't actually experienced.
Mm.
I'd say with web slingers, it's even more important to actually do the thing and experience it in person, given how interactive it is and how 3D images don't really work on a YouTube ride through video. As someone who has ridden it, someone who has experienced it, how crucial do you think that interaction is to really understanding and appreciating this ride?
Oh, I mean, 100%. I had seen like people's reactions to the ride, and I mean, I never think it's fair to judge anything when you haven't experienced it. Um, and I mean, having heard about it before and kind of anticipating the ride and waiting for it for so many years, going on it was pretty crazy. I mean, Disney, they have the theming down. They know what they're doing. They're really good at giving you an immersive experience from the moment you step into the queue. And I think that's really important for
Yeah.
any of the Disney rides. One thing in particular that I liked was that the story around the ride was it has Peter Parker and Spider-Man, but it's its own new story, and it really like involves the visitors um and the people participating.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think the technology, even though it was explained to us, I am still fascinated by how this works. I don't entirely understand it, but being able to sling my arms out and have the webs correlate directly on screen, it was mind-boggling.
Did it feel pretty accurate? Like, was it actually reflecting how you were
Yeah, I was surprised.
moving your arms?
Yeah, I thought there would be more of a delay, but it was pretty accurate. It was really cool.
And there's like literally it's just your arms. Like there's no gun on the cart. They
No.
sell that thing you can buy, but you don't need it. The thing that goes on your arm. You can just whip your arm forward and it reads what you're doing. That sounds pretty amazing. How like exhausting is that? Like were your arms hurting when you were done?
I don't, they were fine. Maybe it was just because there was a lot of adrenaline. I was really excited to go on the ride.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I mean, I went on it twice and, I was all good. I mean, the second time I definitely got a little bit more competitive because when I came out the first time, I saw how other people were doing on the ride and how many points they got. And then I was like, oh gosh, like I did terribly. So,
Now within your ride vehicle, it's like a collaboration, right? Like your score is cooperative and not against each other.
yeah, and that's something that is like different from like the other kind of game rides in California Adventure
Yeah.
Disneyland, which I think is kind of fun. There's like little bits and pieces of the ride where you're all working together to like defeat like a big spider bot or another big enemy, and then it will give you like a ranking based on how you did as a team. So that was
Do
also
they
fun.
do they like show your score compared to other teams who have just ridden the ride, or is it simply just this is your score, you did a good job?
They show you your score, and then when you exit the ride and are leaving, there's a like a leaderboard, but it doesn't compare you to like the people that are in the same car because so basically it's like this one big car and there's four seats on either side. And it's just the people on your one side that are in your team.
Cool, cool. What was the queue like? Like, I've seen video of the pre-show. How did that look in person?
I was actually really surprised by how real Peter Parker looks on the screen. And there are so many things to look at in that little pre-show. Like going on, it was nice to go on it a second time because there were all of these things I missed up above with they had these vents and you could see the spider bots crawling through them and then you could see them messing around with like other things on Peter Parker's desk. And so that was really cool. There was a lot to look at, and even like they had these whiteboards like with like markups of the spider bots and things like that. And so there's just a lot to look at. Reminds me of the pre-show for Mission Breakout. So many things to look at and see. It was really cool.
Have you been able to do Rise of the Resistance?
No, and I'm really sad about it. I'm waiting.
Yeah, because that the whole Q pre-show thing, I was wondering how it stacked up to that, because the video portion with Holland, it looked kind of similar to when you meet Rey in the Star Wars ride, but like there's such a long, elaborate, heavily detailed queue before you even get to that pre-show in Rise of the Resistance. And I was wondering, is there something like that in Web Slingers? Like, do you go like through a lot of the web building before you get to where the pre-show starts?
No, it's actually like a pretty short walk. There's just like a little entrance with like some info about the spider bots and other stuff, and you pretty much walk directly into the pre-show. Yeah, I know the Rise of the Resistance one has that like crazy elaborate long pre-show thing, and it looks so cool.
Right. Hopefully you get to do that soon. Yeah.
I know.
Last thing, I guess, about Avengers Campus. Let's talk about the food. So you wrote that you tried the shawarma, you tried the giant pretzel from the Pym Test Kitchen. How did that all stack up to other theme park food?
In terms of Disney theme park foods, I am not always a huge fan. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
But I was actually pretty surprised by the food in the park overall. I mean, I didn't get to try everything, but the shawarma was actually pretty good. And I was looking forward to that. I don't know why that was like the big thing about the park that I was looking forward to, but I just thought it was like such a fun addition.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good.
Well, like the shawarma thing, I mean, that's one of their heavy marketing points, like for the entire land. I'm not crazy here. People know that shawarma existed before these movies, right?
I would hope so. I mean, maybe not people my age. I don't know. I don't know if I can say that, but
yeah. I've seen so many people on social media and message boards talk about how they can't wait for shawarma. And I'm genuinely starting to wonder, like, have you had shawarma before you went to Avengers Camp?
Me? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
How did this, like the Disney version of it compare to what you've had elsewhere?
I don't know. It's probably not as good as the other shawarma that I've had, but it's pretty good.
That's generally the standard of their counter service food there, like it's all right. Like their pizza's fine, their burgers are fine, and so is the shawarma. So
exactly. And I think if you're going to eat in the park, and I know I was saying that I was looking forward to the shawarma, but I think if you're going to eat in the park, it's definitely worth it to go to the Pym Test Kitchen. Like that's the place to go.
So what is that like? I've seen some of the special effects, like the pretzel. It looks like it's growing in front of you. What's the rest of that space look like when you're inside?
It's really cool. It feels like this like futuristic, like scientific kind of like it feels like a lab. The menu itself, it's a pretty big menu. They only had a handful of items that we could try at the time, but there's a lot of stuff and a lot of drinks too, and there's like a little bit of everything.
It has some alcohol there too, right? Cocktails and beer and whatnot.
It does, and I was kind of bummed that I couldn't try because they didn't have it at the time.
Bummer. Do they have any of like the special glassware or cups that you can buy like at Trader Sam's or some of the other restaurants there?
I didn't see any of the cups for sale. I did see they have in the like Web Slingers store right next to the ride. They have these like shot glasses that are beakers and other things, which were kind of fun. But I know when you order a cocktail at the test kitchen, you get to keep the little beaker that it comes in. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, cool.
So that's cool.
Yeah, I saw that stuff again on YouTube where the beer flows in from the bottom of the cup, kind of like how Thor's mug refills in the Doctor Strange movie.
Exactly.
So, okay, now that you've been there as a Disneyland fan, as someone who grew up going there, how would you compare Avengers Campus overall to Galaxy's Edge or Cars Land, some of the other relatively recent areas they built out there?
I mean, I think Disney is like they know what they're doing. They have this certain structure to each land and really do a good job of immersing visitors. I think for me personally, I'm biased to like the opening of Cars Land, I think, because that was just like one of the really big, that was kind of when Disney really shifted in terms of the way that they design their lands within the parks. And I remember just that being such a big deal. I think it's worth it to go to Avengers Campus and see it, and I think it's a really nice addition to the park. I mean, sorry to Bugs Land, but it was quite outdated. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think this is a really nice addition to the park. I mean, seeing the way California Adventure has changed even within the past 10 years has been pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's like almost completely different, right?
Mm. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's definitely been interesting to watch that happen. I mean, there's some things I'm a little sad about and miss, but
What do you miss the most?
I it's really just I know it's the same ride, but I really miss California Screamin'.
Yeah.
I just miss the music, and it was just like that's something that I grew up going on. Yeah, that's the one thing.
The whole Pixar Pier concept, it just doesn't really hold together the way that what used to be there did, when it was literally just, oh, hey, this is like a Victorian era boardwalk park. And now it's randomly just, oh, here are the Incredibles and here are, the Inside Out characters. And it doesn't really have much theme to it, you know?
Yeah, and I think Paradise Pier just had this like charm to it. And it was just like it was such a fun place to hang out. And maybe I'm just really nostalgic for it, but yeah.
That's the nature of Disney. I mean, nostalgia is totally wrapped up inside all of the stuff with these theme parks. So,
Mhm.
yeah. So I guess last question. So you see yourself in the future when you go to California Adventure, you see yourself making time to go to Avengers Campus pretty much every time you go?
Oh yeah, definitely. And especially if I bring friends and go with other people so I can kind of show them around and,
Yeah.
talk about the park. But I mean, if I hadn't gone to the media event, I was planning to go back to California Adventure just because this was opening. I'll definitely be going back.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you got to check it out for Paste.
Yeah, I
And
hope that
thanks.
soon.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on to talk about it here.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell people where they can find you on Twitter or anything like that, or if you have a website you want to drop a link for here?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I am on Twitter at KATLONGGG. Yeah, most of my content and stuff is on there. Don't have a website yet. That's incoming. But yeah, I'll just give them that.
Yeah, they can just go click your byline at Paste and see what you've written for us recently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks again, and yeah, this has been fun.
Yeah, this was great. I'm excited I got to go. It was awesome.
Hey, yeah, that's it. That's What the Plus. Another episode of What the Plus over with. Thank you very much, Katherine Long, for hitting up Avengers Campus for us and then coming on this here podcast to talk about it. Also, thanks to you, my listeners, for hitting play on this thing and sticking around long enough to hear me say these words. We'll be back next week with another episode. Got some big things in the works, some pretty awesome guests. We'll let you know when that's official. Thanks again. Have a great week. Talk to you soon. I'm Garrett Martin. This is What the Plus.